You're listening to the Behind the Tee podcast, hosted by your favorite club curlers, Rob and Kelly. The show where we share our thoughts on what's happening in the curling world with the internet. But let's be real, we end up talking about football half the time anyways. Rob, can you believe it?
No, I can't.
Curling Canada has finally announced who will be representing Canada at the Olympics in mixed doubles.
With like only 2 weeks to go before the Olympics, yes, or something like that. Talk about leaving it to the last second.
I do hope that they told them ahead of time before they told the rest of the country because, there really wasn't much time left.
I believe they did, but not significantly. Maybe like a day or so.
Because they must be on the plane on their way to Beijing right about now.
I wonder that or they're quarantining, but first of all, I have to say, like, I'm kind of disappointed. Like everybody, I've spoken to tons of people this week who were very disappointed in the selection of Rachel Homan and John Morris as the Olympic representatives. We're disappointed because we offered ourselves to do it. I don't think Curling Canada gave us much consideration. I'm feeling a little bit insulted and rejected. What can you do?
I think you'll get over it. But how are people disappointed? I mean, I think it was obvious that they were going to pick Morris and Homan.
I know, like my default answer was, well, if you listen to our podcast where we run through all the mixed doubles teams and like, shamelessly self-promote ourselves. But I think we did break down every team and gave the pros and cons of each. And we both came to a unanimous conclusion, which if you know the two of us, does not happen very often, where we agreed that this was probably going to be the best team. So I get it that you're never going to please everybody. But at the same time, I'm like, what should they have done?
I wouldn't necessarily say the best team because I think a lot of other teams who were going to play down in the trials would have be as equally good. But I do think Homan and Morris are definitely the safest choice.
Yeah, it's a safe bet.
You kind of know what you're going to expect out of them, whereas the other ones are a little bit of a toss-up as to how they'll perform in Beijing.
Maybe. And the haters out there, well...
Haters gonna hate!
Haters is a strong word. But one of the criticisms was that they're both past the peaks of their curling careers, which is a... interesting statement. There may be some validity to it. I know Rachel's kind of letting that on with the way things are going this year. But at the same time, like, I don't think you should read too much into anything during pandemic curling, first of all. And second of all, even if they both never win another game, we talked about this. We know that Curling Canada values notoriety and that they love big names and experience and they rely on that. I'm not saying that's always a good thing. But I mean, the joke that I made to one of the listeners that commented was, I'm surprised Curling Canada didn't name Kevin Martin and Cheryl Bernard as the mixed doubles team.
Maybe they're the alternates.
Maybe.
I mean, like we've said multiple times that Jennifer Jones is past her prime and look at her, she's going to the Olympics. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think it's a little insulting to Homan and Morris. Morris has been around a lot longer, so I can see maybe he's not in peak shape as he was when he was 30, but even then I would question that.
I fully agree with you that it's I think when we argue that curlers are past their prime, it's because we're looking for talking points. We're looking to justify that, I think they're going to lose. Of course they might lose. It's a very tough game out there, but I agree, like in terms of if my life depended on a mixed doubles team winning a game, you'll do pretty well with Homan and Morris. So.
And let's not forget, Morris already has an Olympic gold medal in mixed doubles curling. Like, how do you beat that? How do you beat that? You can't. He's shown that he's done it once. He could do it again. So I think, it's just obvious.
No, exactly. And I guess you're never going to please everybody. Yeah, but again, the way you can not necessarily please everybody, but get them to agree was by picking us. I'm not bitter at all.
Have everyone agree to disagree.
Exactly. You'll unite everyone anyway.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm looking forward to the Olympics this year, and it's in 2 weeks? It starts in 2.5 weeks.
I think so. 2 or 3, I think. I've lost track of time. I was listening to last week's episode where we mentioned that this is coming up in certain number of days, and that was wrong, whatever it was. Don't rely on us for anything date-wise.
No, there's a big lag between when we actually record this and when it gets published.
Right. But prediction-wise, I got to say, Kelly, we're getting better. I mean,
Mhm.
you and I sat here a month ago, because I think it was actually a month ago, and said it's going to be Morrison Homan, and we were right,
Mhm.
which doesn't happen very often. We're known for predictions going off the rails.
Let's talk about our NFL picks this week.
Get there in a sec, but yeah, the only thing is with just to close the door on the selection there is that I don't really blame Curling Canada. You're always going to get people that are
Right.
going to dump on this decision, but what I will come back to, and I know we've said it many times, but why did it take so long?
That's the big question. That's what I wanna find out. I don't care who they picked, I just wanna know why it took so long.
I know. I was listening to another podcast, which I shouldn't admit to, but Mike Harris said it best. He's like, just rip the damn Band-Aid off. Get it over with. It's not pleasant, but just do it.
Right. You need to. We can take a little tangent here and talk about, the NFL. The playoffs are about to start, or I guess they've technically started.
They have
It's
started, yeah.
wild card.
Which, according to Kelly, apparently doesn't matter, but I'm going to try to talk her out of that.
No, they do matter. I just haven't gotten to the point of, like, sitting down and actually watching them that I reserve for the actual playoff games.
Me too, although because we still have one more day of curfew, that kind of helps to make the decision for me.
That's true, and also that it's -20 outside also
As well.
helps. Yeah. But all that to say that my picks this week are atrocious. So far, there's been 4 games. There'll be another one tonight, and, I've only picked correctly once.
I don't even remember who I picked.
And that was Tampa Bay, because we all know you don't bet against Tom Brady. Even if I don't like that he's with the Buccaneers, I went with it.
Yeah, that I definitely got right. I don't think I think even Philadelphia fans probably did not pick themselves to win that game. Even the most optimistic Eagles fan probably did not pick them to beat Tom Brady.
Do you think Brady's gonna make a second run at the Super Bowl?
I think so. I think it's between them and the Packers in the NFC. I think they're going to roll over everybody that they meet along the way.
You know, it's really too bad they're in the same conference. It would be quite the Super Bowl if it was a Green Bay versus Tom Brady.
Hey, I agree. It would be interesting. You'll have to settle for NFC championship probably, unless
Yeah.
they somehow meet sooner, but I don't think that's possible.
I mean, I think in normal years, if Green Bay and the Bucks end up in the NFC final, in normal years, I would obviously be picking Green Bay. But I don't know, this year Aaron Rodgers, a little weird. And I don't know
Anti-vax.
if I don't know how I feel about him.
I know how I feel about it. I have some comments, but
I have to send you this video. Someone's shared this video about, on like Sportsnet, ESPN, they have like these panels of guys talking about
right.
sports. And I have to find it again. But basically, one of the guys went on a rant about Aaron Rodgers. And he was basically like, Aaron Rodgers, you're full of yourself. Get over it. And just like, he said something like, you're playing the victim. You're not the victim here. Something like that.
Yeah,
It was
like
pretty funny. But like, the way he said it was absolutely hilarious.
okay, you'll have to send me that.
There's
and,
a lot of sass involved.
Okay, and I'll have my comments next week because I've been pretty harsh on Aaron Rodgers. I used to like the Packers. I used to like him, but I did not take too kindly to his little moment of lying about his vaccination status. I thought that was
Yeah.
I don't know, Novak Djokovic like. There's another current affair.
Oh my
that's going
goodness. I guess it just comes to show that doesn't matter how rich or famous you are, like follow the rules like everyone else.
Well, in tennis apparently, but in the NFL, no, you just get COVID and then you're back in business as usual the next week.
I guess at least with the NFL, you stay within the same country, so you don't have to deal with immigration.
That's true. Although my brother told me that like some states are much harsher on vaccination status than others, and that apparently like in New York, you are required to be vaccinated to be in a public area, including football stadiums. And I said, oh, so what about if like the Packers have to play the Giants? And my brother just reminded me they are the New York Giants, but they play in New Jersey. Which I totally forgot about.
Sure, that's true. Because like in New Jersey is just a wannabe New York, right?
Exactly. They'll relax their laws to bring in Aaron Rodgers into their state. Oh, by the way, one more curling news item, which I don't know if it qualifies as newsworthy, but I think it does, is that the Tournament of Hearts and Briar have officially expanded their fields.
I heard.
To 18 teams, which means they're going to do what they did last year when they were in the bubble, which was in Regina, if I remember correctly. I'm just
Are you
kidding.
sure about that? This is in reference to last year where They played all championships in Calgary in the bubble, and the commentators made sure we did not forget that.
Yes,
It was
take a
in
drink every
Calgary.
time you hear Calgary. So, it's still probably gonna be in Thunder Bay, although that is even still in limbo. Although, quick aside, I think it should go ahead because Ontario is sending their kids back to school tomorrow. Based on that, I feel like you can allow a bunch of curlers to come to your province and play. I don't know about fans, but at least I'd like to think the tournament should go ahead. But anyway, so it's going to be 18 teams instead of 16, which means 2 additional wildcard teams, which we know who they're going to be. The wildcard 1 will be Tracy Fleury. Wildcard 2 will be, you knew she was going to be part of this Tournament of Hearts somehow, but
Chelsea Carey.
I thought for a second she'd be wearing the wheat sheaf, right?
Mhm.
That's it. I thought for a second she would win Saskatchewan, but no, she lost the final. But here she is as wildcard 2.
Always manages to get in there somehow.
I know, and next week when we make our Scotties predictions, obviously for both of us, she's going to be near the top. Yeah, and wildcard 3 will be Rachel Homan, sans Rachel, with Emma Miskew skipping, and I think Sarah's going to move up to 3rd, and Allison Flaxey is going to be sparing, and she'll throw 2nd, I believe. What do you think about expanding the Tournament of Hearts field?
I guess honestly, I don't have strong feelings about it.
I shouldn't laugh. Kelly had this look of, I could care less about any of
Exactly.
this.
I mean, like, look, this is another year too where a lot of provinces didn't get a provincial championship. So, for that reason, it makes sense to bring in some wild cards teams just like they did last year. In a regular year, I don't know because then
Mhm.
it just kind of becomes more like the tournament's going to go in a direction where it'll become like a Canada Cup where only like the top teams are gonna be there, and like just to be nice, all the other provinces can bring a team as well. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like
I get
mixing of the formats.
I get the same vibe as you do, and I kind of would like to long term just go back to the 1 wildcard team, or actually 0 wildcards, but
Yeah.
that's a little bit controversial. But I think given what's been going on this year and last year, we're in the same predicament that we were. Only like 3 provinces were able to have provincials last year, and that's the same thing this year. It's just 3 different provinces for whatever reason.
Yeah, and also too, it's like so now we have 3 wild cards, but then what's the cut line? Why not have 4? Why not have 5? Like what's
I agree. I think that the nice thing about it is you can just, for this year, say, oh, well, we'll do what we did last year.
Mhm.
But you're right. Why isn't there a 4th or 5th wild card? I guess because 18 teams, 9 pools, 2 pools of 9 works well from a
Right.
draw standpoint, I'm guessing. But I think, like, I mean, I don't know about the Briar. I haven't looked that far down yet. But for the Tournament of Hearts, I was kind of like, I guess I'm glad they're doing it because it put all the recent news put so many teams in an awkward spot. We talked about Holly Duncan being in an awkward spot, and fortunately, she gets to go. And I think it's all the more special for her that she gets to go as Ontario.
Right.
I think last week I said it was her first time representing Ontario, and I was wrong. She's actually gone to the Tournament of Hearts before.
But you know what? Sorry, can I just you made me
Yeah.
think of something. So Holman's team is going as wild card 3 without Holman, and they got
hmm
a sub. Is that fair?
I think so, because in terms of,
Or should or would it be more fair to just go down to the next team in terms of points?
I think you've got 3 of your 4 players.
Okay.
Uh, I think that's fair, because also that would be like if we now I'm gonna get this wrong. Like if Jennifer Jones had lost privileges because Caitlin was at the Olympics last time around, I'd be like, no, she's got 3 of her 4 players and she brought in a spare, and she won the Tournament of Hearts with that spare.
Yeah, but it's one thing if you like win your way in and someone can't come, so you bring another one, as opposed to being assigned a spot. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm
I
just
don't
a
know.
food for thought, like
It's true.
because
Although
it's not her team, but yeah.
my thought is that if we were only going to get one Ontario team, I wanted it to be Holly Duncan. It would mean a lot
Mhm.
more for her than it would for Rachel, who's there every year and who has something better to do, quite frankly. But it was going to be unfair to Emma, Joanne, and Sarah. And so, really, this way, the way I see it is that everybody's happy. They all get, well, not happy, but as
Content.
much as we can.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to, no team is getting horribly ripped off, because there was a week ago, it looked like somebody was going to be ripped off. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Good point. Fair enough.
hey, I convinced her.
I don't know. It was just more of a thought out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the more people are happy, the better.
And I just hope it goes ahead. That's my last thought, sorry, because
Yeah.
there's still talk that it could get canned. And I've wavered back and forth on, I mean, a month ago, I was like, this is not appropriate to be having it. And I still kind of feel that way. However, we need stuff to talk about. It's going to be -20, and I'm not planning on going anywhere in February. I'd like to have.
Yeah, we need some stuff to watch.
Yes.
So until we wait, there's curling on TV. We have some time to kill. And so we decided to talk about how people, or even you listeners, can get into curling if you're not already into curling. And this year is kind of an important year too, because every Olympics, there's always like a surge in interest in curling. Curling clubs often see a spike in people coming to open houses or like just interest in joining the sport. But a lot of people don't really know how to or what's involved and what you need and what to expect. So here we are to fill you in.
Yes, and quick aside, can I just compliment you, Kelly? You're the first person I've heard in over 2 years use the words surge and oh shoot, what was the other one you used? And huge rise or whatever it was you said, and you were not talking about COVID or spike. I think that's what you said.
Spike, yeah, a
There's a
huge spike. Yeah, and it's like also a question too we get from people. They're like, "Oh, I'd love to play, but I don't know how to get into it." And I don't blame them because it's a little bit mysterious too. It's obvious to us because we've been in the sport for so long, but to new people, not so much. Some people still think we play outside, so
Yes, which, if you know the two of us, is very far from the truth.
yes. If curling were played outside, I would not be playing curling. That is for
Absolutely
sure.
not. It was -20 in Montreal today.
Yes, I think we've said that like about 5 times already this podcast.
Yeah, mate. Just edit out the other 4 times and make that sound good.
All right. So the first thing to do if you're interested in starting curling, or the easiest thing you could do is go to an open house. So there are multiple curling clubs within, or there should be in your city, especially larger city centers have a couple. But even small towns, a lot of them have curling clubs. So if you have a
Yeah.
local curling club, go there. And oftentimes, especially at the beginning of the year and sometimes halfway through the year, they'll host an open house.
And let's add too, I don't know about other countries, but we do have some international listeners. In the US of A, it's largely the same story. There are a lot of curling clubs in pretty much every major American area. It's obviously bigger in the northern states, but if you live if you're listening to us from, I don't know, Dallas, there is a curling club there. It might be in a hockey rink or something. I don't know. But you can find it. Like, do some research in your area because you're not going to stumble across it. You will have to actively go look for it, I think, if you were in the States.
Yeah, and even some curling clubs are well hidden.
Even here.
Oh, yeah. Like, do you remember the St. Anne's Curling Club, which was in the middle of a suburban neighborhood, but it was like
Oh,
behind
yes.
trees and everything? If you did not know it was there, you would not know it was there.
I know. I loved that curling club. It's gone now, sadly, but it
Yeah.
was the most hidden away curling club I've ever been to. One of these little two-sheeters, basically in a forest.
Pretty much. But it was a cute little club.
Yeah, I
It was
liked
like a
it.
shack, but it was cute. So often there'll be someone there to greet you at the door and kind of like walk you through the process. And there's always people on the ice. Oftentimes there'll be some actual club members or people who know what they're doing, so they'll be able to help you out. And open houses are just like you come as you go, as you wish. It's not like a specific
There's
time
no
frame.
commitment.
Exactly. They're just like, hey, here's a slider, here's a broom, this is how you slide, go for it. And you can spend as much time as you want. And of course, club members will probably try to recruit you to join the club. Do not feel pressure. That's all I want to say.
I know. That was something that an argument I had with my mom for many years, because if you listen to last week's episode, we talked about how we came into curling, and your parents curled, mine did not. And when my mom retired and she was looking for something to do after years of trying to talk her into it, I got her into curling. There were many things that she was skeptical about. And one of them was like, what if I miss too many shots? No one's going to want me to curl with them. And I was just like, hey, if you're willing to be there, no one's counting how many shots you make. If you can show up, you're worth your weight in
golden.
gold.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We just need body counts here. We don't care about your skill.
That's it. And it's true. Like, the moment you step on the ice for your first time at an open house, somebody is going to be like, hey, come play on my team.
Yeah, curling clubs are in a position where they just need to gain more members and they are losing them. And also too, let's say you go to the open house, it goes well, you love it, and you're like, I want to play this all year round. Then you would have to actually join the club. And clubs have various leagues. So depending on what your availability and also the type of player you are and your skill level, will determine like which leagues you can play in. So if you're a more senior person, you have the day ladies, or what do you call the men? The day men, or
They have their own name. Well, we're going by our club here.
but day ladies is a pretty generic or
I think so. I
universal,
think that's
yeah,
consistent across different curling clubs. The we don't have day men, but they call themselves something else.
something. And then there's the ladder, which is the more like competitive league, which if you're curling for the first time, you probably won't be joining that league. But then there's also mixed, where it's mixed curling, not mixed doubles, mixed curling, although ladders are also mixed. So there's not much difference there. And then oftentimes there's a more like fun beer league, green league. So that's probably a league you'd be interested in joining.
This is why I really like our club, by the way, because our leagues are just kind of hybrids of everything you just said. Our most competitive league, I would argue, is a mixed beer league as well.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The ladder's the more competitive league. Now that's going to vary from club to club. So I find our ladder pretty one of the more competitive ones, but it's in terms of atmosphere and it's pretty chill, I think.
I think so, yeah. Like, there's no stress there. I remember, because I've been playing in it for many years, that a long time ago there was a little bit. Like, it got some people took it very seriously, and there was a little bit of animosity. Now it's just really, this is what we do every Tuesday. We're out just here to have fun, and nobody takes themselves too seriously out there. Which,
Well, there's always that one person.
okay, yeah, you're always going to come across one or two people that
Yeah.
do. But I'd like to think, I'd like to extrapolate this across other curling clubs as well, that for the most part, unless you have aspirations of going to the Briar, you're going to find a team that is fun to play with.
Hmm. I think our team is fantastically fun to play with. We like really don't care.
I miss it with this stupid shutdown that we're in.
Another important thing too, in case you didn't already know, all curling clubs, if not like 99% of them, have a bar attached to it. So make sure you have additional disposable income and bring it to the club because you're going to need it for the bar.
Yes, which is a great deal because, first of all, if you're new to the sport and the first couple of games don't go your way while you're finding your feet and you lose a bunch of games, well, the biggest thing, this needs to be made, like, promoted more, Kelly. But
Mhm.
when you lose games, you get a free drink.
You know what they should do on the posters to get people to come curling? Like, join XYZ Curling Club, a 50% chance of free beer.
I know we've talked about like free beer now that we have your attention or something.
Those are good odds.
I know, yeah. It's okay, not to blow our own horns here, but we're a pretty good team. We win a lot of games, and it's the bar tab,
It's
Kelly.
expensive if you win a lot. That's the thing. It's like you want to win, but then you have to buy alcohol. So
Yes.
yeah.
And by the way, it's not as good we should get it out there. It's not as good a deal as we let on here, because if you do lose and you get a free drink, you are expected to buy the next round. Now, sometimes people don't stay for another round, but you do have to offer it. So,
Right, that's true too. That's it. If you have a weeknight game at 9 p.m. and it's 11 o'clock and you're off the ice, well, odds are you won't be having a second round, but you still have to offer.
dare I say, Kelly, that might be a good transition into some other thing that we should mention, like some things that you should know.
The unwritten rules of curling.
Yes.
Hmm.
Were you thinking of that?
No, but like we can go that way. That is definitely an unwritten rule. Like winners by first round, losers by the second round. Even if you don't want a second round, you still have to offer it to that player. Sorry, I think we should also mention it goes by player. So the skip always buys the drink for the other skip and the third for the third, etc., etc. Here's one unwritten rule. If you lose, don't order like a really expensive drink. Because that's happened to me a couple times where said person was, I don't know, bitter about losing and they order like a double Jack and Coke. Excuse me? Excuse
Yeah,
me.
that's
I'm like an 18-year-old girl here in school.
harkens back to our junior days where we were beating people that were many years our senior, and they were, I dare say, a little bit bitter about
Mhm.
that.
Like, can you just order a Bud Light, please? Because the rates at the curling club tend to be a little cheaper than if you were to go to a regular bar, but still. A double Jack and Coke? No.
Depends on the club. That club that you and I were members of, that had a pricey bar, I dare say.
Ridiculous.
I know, it's like, "No lunch for me tomorrow, thank you."
The point is just to have a drink with the other team and socialize. It is not to get free alcohol.
I agree, but I mean, when you say it's not to get free booze, I'm just like, "Oh, that's gonna rub people the wrong way."
Okay, free fancy booze, okay?
Yes. I guess the other thing, like if you listen to us all the time, then you know one of the things that we suggest, because or you know what, let's just put this all aside for a second. I've not really been a part of educating new curlers. I used to be, but not for a long time. I don't really know what new curlers are taught. And so I'm just doing a whole lot of speculating here. But one of the great things that I know, I sound like a broken record here, is that you don't have to play the full game. And I think there's a perception that it's disrespectful to abandon the game early, to which I say, no, it isn't. If anything, it's disrespectful to stay out there
Yeah.
longer than you need to. But the greatest thing about this sport, or one of the many great things, as we often say, is that if you were being destroyed, you don't have to stay out there. You can say, well, let's go have a drink now and call it quits. Or if you want to keep practicing, you can go and stay out there all night practicing. But you don't have to keep the other team out there with you.
Yeah, and I think the rule of thumb or like the acceptable game length if one team is dominating over another is 6 ends. Like no one's going to fault you for going 6 ends, but after 6, if you're losing by 10 points, please shake.
And you start that seventh end, it's, you're
Yeah,
wasting
a hint to
everybody's
that is if
time.
the other team is starting to play super defensively, which means that they just hit everything in sight, that's a sign that they want to get out. Like we said before, like the other team doesn't owe you practice. There's a lot of opportunities at the club to come practice on your own. And if you become a lifelong curler, you're going to have many, many games to come. 2 extra ends really don't mean anything, and it really annoys the other team.
I know, and I don't want to come off as like some snotty
Yeah.
guy who just wants to leave and get out of there, but I think but we're trying to like actually teach something here that I don't think is
If you
taught.
put 2 great teams together, if one team is down by 4 or 5 points in the 6th end, they will shake. Like um
Yeah,
it's not a rule because good players don't want to waste their time playing against greens. It's not that. It's like a general rule that everyone follows. If you're losing drastically by 6 ends, you shake. Doesn't matter your level of skill.
exactly. If this is your last curling game of all time, that maybe it's different. But the implication is, unless we're in COVID times, we're all going to be out here again in 2 days or something like that. Driving through a blizzard to get here. We're dedicated to the sport, but we don't need to be out here for the full 8 ends when it's really
Mhm.
just crazy. So take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it and you can get an extra round in at the bar.
There you go. Yeah. But I was just thinking of other sports, how when you watch a lopsided hockey game, that's when fights break out. A lopsided baseball game, the pitchers start throwing fastballs at the batter. It gets violent and people get frustrated. And I love that curling does not have that problem because we can just say, well,
Yep.
that's enough for now. It's something, yeah, it's something that needs to be promoted. I mean, obviously, it's not like we said, it's an unwritten rule, but I don't know how many people actually know that until they really start playing.
I think that's the case because I've given instructionals before to new curlers. And it's kind of awkward to say too, like, oh, by the way, like they know they're not going to be winning all the games. So then what you tell them, oh, by the way, make sure you shake after 6 ends. You can't really say that. It just comes with experience. Like,
You have to phrase it in a particular way, which a lot of things have to be done in a very particular way. Like one thing that I've thought about here is that, and this is not so much for the new curlers, this is for the people that are teaching the new curlers, is that, and it's easy for me to say because I don't do it very much anymore. I used to, but you have to be extraordinarily pleasant with everybody. Because I'm just trying to think about, now we both have family that put us in the sport, but let's say that both you and I, like, we know each other, we're good friends, but we have no background in curling. And one day, instead of saying, "Hey, let's start a podcast," you say, "Why don't we try this curling sport?" Now, I think I would be up for it just because COVID has totally changed my perspective, and like, hell, I'll do anything. But I'd be stepping majorly out of my comfort zone here. Like, it'd be really weird to be like, I'm going to try this new sport that I've only seen on TV that I don't know the first thing about. It's got to be uncomfortable for a lot of people. They might be just curious enough just to try it, but I don't know. I know for me, like if I were doing it, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be
Right,
very
right.
intimidated.
That's why it's important too. And I think clubs do a good job at this is that if you are a new person joining the club and you have limited experience, to get on a team with people who know what they're doing. Like they'll put you at lead, not to downplay the lead position,
Right.
but you're just playing simpler shots like draws, guards. Maybe you'll do a takeout every now and then. But it's kind of like the low pressure shots, if you will. And then everyone else on the team too are gonna guide you in the proper curling etiquette because there are so many of these like unspoken rules. Like if you're a lead, don't go into the house or don't go behind the hack. You have no need to be like no reason to be there. That's for the third and the skip. Wait by the side of the hog line. Other things like that. If you have a slip-on slider, please make sure you bring it down to the other end before the end starts again.
Oh yeah, that's it. Like let's keep the game
Keep the
moving.
game moving. That's a thing.
Yes, like be ready to throw when it's your
Yeah.
turn. That's the other big unwritten rule. Well, it is kind of a written rule because in actual play you get timed for how long. So you want to cut down on as much of this dead
Mhm.
time as you can.
And, like, limit your movement when your team isn't throwing. That's the thing that I've noticed too. Once I was playing and there was, we were playing against a team, all of them were greens, and they were actually quite lovely. It wasn't much of a game though, but it was a lot of fun. But the skip on the other team kept moving behind and okay, you don't have to stand still like a statue, but you still have to limit your movement. So I was playing third and I was like in the process of throwing, and I see is this man wearing a big flashy red sweater just move from one end of the sheet to the like across the sheet. And I'm pretty good at being like focused on the broom, but something like that you just can't not see. It's in your peripheral and it's big and flashy. You just can't avoid it. And it distracted me. So just please don't do that. Just stay somewhat still. You can scratch your nose, just don't do any gross movements.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day though, because I agree with you. Like, and if you're a relatively new curler here listening, the idea is try to limit your movement when you're not throwing. Because the great thing, it's not that kind of sport. You're not supposed to heckle the other. You're supposed to encourage the
Mhm.
other team, if anything. Like it's a very respectful sport. It's like golf. You don't. We're both avid golfers. We know. I'm just kidding.
Nope.
I know nothing about golf, except that you don't heckle people when they golf, right? So it's the same thing here. And you don't do it on purpose, but you try not to do it by accident either. Don't move around unnecessarily. But even though we say all of that, I guess like not to get into too many specifics, but I would teach a new curler to just be mindful of the other team when they're shooting. Try to limit your movement, stand off to the side. Uh, where do you stand? I know there's particular rules about that, but like really, who cares? Just get out of the way. Don't unnecessarily do something. But I want to get this out here too. Here we are saying that it's bad to move and it's all. Now, if you're in the hack and somebody else maybe moves inadvertently, don't be that person that calls them out.
I've only seen that from people who have been curling for many years and just have a temper. Like I haven't seen a lot of greens do that.
Well, no, not greens. I agree, but I've seen people, for instance, so let's just visualize a house for a second. Like, let's say you're skipping Kelly, and I'm skipping against you. It's your shot right now, so you're in the house calling a rock. I'm standing behind you, somewhere off to the side, behind the back line, and I'm just holding my broom without paying attention. I've heard it said that you should hold your broom upwards with the head of the broom up in the air rather than on the ice because the thrower might confuse your broom for your skip's broom. And I've been called on
Really?
that. I mean, not in years. Oh yeah, like when we were little kids, we used to get called on everything. But I think that's because people like to correct things when you're little. Even my mom was telling me she notices that people, because she doesn't spend much time in the house, but people call on that, being like, oh, you shouldn't hold your broom like that. And really, if you don't know who your skip is and which broom you're supposed to aim at, that's
Yeah.
kind of on you. So I think what we're saying is, if you're not shooting, don't make any unnecessary movement. But if you're the one throwing, don't make
Yes. Oh,
excuses
people
either.
love to make excuses as to why they missed their shot. Doesn't mean they're all valid, but
That's it. No, I mean, and we make joke excuses all the time, but really, I think the problem is with curling is that you have to understand you are going to miss shots. Even the best players in the world. miss a good 10-20% of the shots they make per game. When you get really good, you can hopefully try to diagnose what you did wrong. But to just sit there and be like, oh, it was the other team that
I
they
don't think
moved,
so.
you're not going to make too many friends like that.
So now that you are ready to go to the open house or ready to play in your first club league, one thing that's also important is to know how to dress and what equipment to bring. Although it's played indoors, it can get quite cold. So wear warm clothing if you're someone that gets cold easily. Also, please, 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 please wear pants that have some stretch in them. You don't know how many times I've been to an open house and I see someone come in with jeans. It's a sport.
Yep.
Why are you wearing jeans? And let me tell you, it's not very comfortable to slide in jeans. I've tried it. Not fun.
I know.
And in terms of like equipment, if it's like your first time, like, or you're going to an open house, you really don't need anything besides a clean pair of sneakers. And you can get like a step on slider, and then they'll have a broom for you or stabilizer. I'll get into that later. But really, like, as long as you have good clothes, like, you're kind of good to go, which is great. Curling is a very cheap sport to get into, bar the membership fee. But in terms of equipment, it's really not that bad. If you do decide to pick up the sport, I'd say the next things to get would be a broom and or stabilizer and a good pair of shoes. So before I go into the stabilizer, I'm going to go into the shoes for a second because I actually just learned something today while researching this episode that you'll find interesting.
Okay.
In curling, there's a handful of brands. The popular ones are Balance Plus, Asham, Goldline. I think those are like the top three, especially when it comes to shoes. And then for brooms and stuff, you have like Hardline. There's also Olson, I think, that makes shoes. All that to say, between Goldline, Asham, and Balance Plus, the shoes are more or less the same. It really just comes to personal preference because the fit is a little different. And also, depending where you are in the country, you'll notice people adhering to a certain brand more than others. So, for example, Manitoba, big Asham province, everyone wears Asham. And who was a team that was always sponsored by Asham? Jennifer Jones. Well, they're not sponsored by them no more because at the 2021 curling trials, they wore Balance Plus shoes.
I noticed that. They all
So I don't
switched.
know if Balance Plus gave them more money, but my shoes are Balance Plus.
So are mine.
Invest in a good pair because these shoes are going to last you literally a decade. Before I got my new shoes, the ones before that, I literally wore them for 10 years. And that's including competition.
Me too. I'm going on more than 10 years for mine.
They won't look good at the 10 years, but they'll be functional.
Will still be functional. I've thought about upgrading, although I'm not interested until after COVID ends because, they hopefully will last you a long time. You have to take good care of them. Like, do not leave them in your car. That is something that I've learned the hard way.
Or in a curling club 3 hours away.
3 hours away. Do you remember how last week we were talking about Vekoma?
Was it in Bakehomo you left them?
That's where I forgot my shoes, yes.
Oh my God.
And they were brand new at the time, too. And I still curl in them to this day. But yes, don't leave them in your car because having them go down to -30, it degrades the material and they'll be more likely to die on you much quicker.
So don't be shy to purchase a pair of shoes, especially if you see yourself playing the sport for a long time, because especially if you're just going to do club curling, you can like just buy those shoes and you're good to go for until your feet change, basically.
Yeah.
Getting into my favorite topic, brooms. So if you go to open house, odds are they will give you a stabilizer. Stabilizer is great for that, especially for people who are just getting on the ice for the first time, and really just it helps them get into slide position so they can at least like throw a rock. If you want to pick up curling full time, just get a broom and learn how to use a broom. It's gonna save you so much money and space in your car or your broom bag or whatever, because you still need a broom to sweep. And stabilizers aren't cheap. So yes, it'll be harder for you in the beginning, but if you put the time to learn a proper slide, it's going to pay off in the end, and you'll be able to play mixed doubles.
Yes, and I don't share Kelly's anti-stabilizer bias here. However, I do agree with you. They're very expensive.
They're essentially the same price as a broom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need a broom. You don't need a stabilizer.
Also with the caveat that you don't have any physical ailments that prevent you from getting into a proper sliding position, then okay, you need a stabilizer. But as you progress in your curling career and you become more comfortable in your slide, I find the stabilizer actually becomes a crutch and prevents you from getting a really good balanced slide because it's easier to default to the stabilizer. And I've seen so many curlers who are 2-3 years in that if they had a broom they could have a decent slide, but instead they've got all of these problems with their slide because they're leaning on their stabilizer, like they're actually using it as a crutch, and it's causing a whole slew of issues. So just learn how to use a broom, and you know what, there's someone at the club who will show you. If you're at my club, I will teach you how to use the slide with a broom.
Yes, and to be fair, like just if you're interested in pursuing like or developing the best curling delivery you can, I agree with you. Then phase out the stabilizer. But if you're just there and you want to have fun and just throw rocks and you don't really care too much about it and you're comfortable with it, then
Exactly,
there's
that's why
nothing
they're
wrong with
great for
that.
open houses.
Even Kelly agrees with that.
Curling with a broom is not easy. So if yeah, you're someone who comes into the club and I just want to throw 5 rocks and I'm good, then just yeah, the stabilizer is great. But if you want to become a curler, use a broom. And this is something I fault curling clubs for because a lot of clubs do have instructionals, and I think that the stabilizer has been like the go-to tool now. So whenever I see new curlers coming to the club, they're like all on the stabilizer. And I think it's frustrating because it's not good. There's no one who's going to be there to teach them how to slide with a broom unless they actively like seek that instruction. And you know how many times I've been at a curling club and I've heard heard a green curler say, "It's interesting. No one on TV uses a stabilizer," or like they go to tournaments and no one's using a stabilizer because yeah, you're not supposed to use a stabilizer. So that's just I'm going to close my
Uh,
yeah.
I love talking to Kelly about stabilizers. If you haven't figured that out yet, I love it. There's so many good stories. But I have one other thing I want to add here quickly. Nothing to do with stabilizers here or brooms or anything equipment wise, but just something you should know as a new curler. Please don't let this deter you. It's going to hurt like hell the first time you try it. And I assure you, it does not last.
But hey, us even now, the first slide of the season is a little painful.
Oh yeah, like the first and like I think if we like cuz we're in a COVID shutdown now, but if we get back to curling in a few weeks and I really hope we do, I bet we're going to
Mhm.
feel that pain again. We're starting up again. So the first day of the year always hurts, but if you're just trying this for the first time, I was what, 8, 9 years old when I first really started curling for the first time, and it hurt then. I remember it really hurted. I remember as a kid it was painful, so I can only imagine now what it would be like if you're starting. But the good news is
Yeah,
it
you're gonna
does go
discover
away.
muscles you didn't think you had.
You didn't know you had. But once you've pulled them all the wrong way, they get used to it. And I've heard that from many curlers who are in pain after the first time they tried and they don't want to come back. And I just like, no, 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 keep trying and you won't feel it again. And it's true, you don't.
And my last parting words of wisdom, there are a lot of people in curling clubs, they're lovely people, and you'll notice quickly that there are a lot of people with different thoughts and opinions, and people are always willing to teach others about curling and whatnot. But all I'm going to say is not all advice is good advice.
If it's not from the two of us, then it's not good.
Just like politely, accept it and move on. Not all curlers are know what they're talking about, or they think they do, but they really don't.
What I actually kind of have something like that. I have nod and smile and ask questions, ask around, and like you'll find somebody who is going to explain it to you in a way that'll make sense, and
Yeah,
you're going to learn a lot.
it's a lot of fun.
It is. It's been part of our lives forever, and hopefully it'll
Yeah.
be part of yours too. I know we're kind of running long, so you can choose what to do with this. But whereas we're talking about joining curling clubs or something, like there's here we're talking about that from the members or prospective new members' point of view here. But from the curling club's point of view, like how do we bring in new people? We've talked about this before. We've come up with ideas, some good, some not so good. But in my research this week, yes, I actually did research, I stumbled across a commercial trying to recruit people to curl. And I may have shown this to you before many years ago, but I can't remember. So I'd like to show it to you now and get your reaction. Leave your mic on.
Okay,
I
okay.
want to hear your reaction to this. Okay, I'll send it to you now. So just for our listeners, this is a video from the Saskatchewan Curling Association trying to recruit prospective curlers to the great curling
Oh,
clubs of
okay.
Saskatchewan.
So there's an old man sitting on a chair.
Very sad old man.
Really? Yeah, awesome. 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 Really? Yeah, awesome.
Oh, I love the fake I can't slide.
Want to try it and have some fun? Hurry hard to your local curling center or visit curlsass.ca to find a curling center near you.
What kind of accent was that? It was like this
I know.
prairie Irish accent. Come to your curling center near
I know. Like,
you.
I have so many thoughts on that. Okay, if Kelly has chosen to leave this in, go look up this ad. It's trying to recruit people to join curling, which is what we're doing right now. But it shows this sad old man bored at his curling club, going, "I don't know, curling is not what it used to be." And then these young people come in, and
The whole thing, I think, was filmed using an iPhone 8.
oh
The
yeah,
budget
like
is not.
it's a very low budget commercial, and it shows some people who have never curled, supposedly never curled. Clearly they have. They pretend to slide badly, but you know they're actually good curlers. My favorite part is the look that when he shakes his head at their bad delivery.
As if that old man has a better delivery.
And then the other guy who's like, "Oh, come over here, I'll show you." And there's no dialogue in all of this. The only dialogue is he goes, "Hey!" when they make a nice shot.
Which, in fairness, does happen, though, you know?
I know, and you know what's funny is that I ridiculed it when I first saw it, but then I was like, you know what? Like, I like the message it's sending.
We need to increase the budget a little bit.
Oh yeah, like it's a very low budget commercial, but it was just, hey, have fun. Somebody who knows what they're doing will show you the ropes, and you're gonna enjoy it. And I know you mocked the person with the accent, but I kind of agree with what she said in that she called it a curling center. I know that's kind of weird, and I mean I don't really buy that, but when you think about it, there's some good ideas behind changing curling club to curling center, because club has this connotation of being exclusive, and you peasants are not welcome.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we've addressed that point too in an episode we did last season in how to help promote the sport.
Yeah, that image has got to be shaken, because you're never going to survive with that hoity-toity vibe as a curling club anymore. So it's in your best interest, to bring in as many new people as you can, even if they cause you to shake your head in disgust at their bad
the
delivery
millennials
at first.
ruining everything.
I know. Damn kids and your and your phones and your. I have nothing to offer, but
all right. Well, that's it, and I think next week we'll be able to start talking about the Scotties and the Olympics. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Bye.
See you then.